All right, so we've got a special video edition of What the Hell Have I Done for you guys. At the request of fellow FPLTransfers.com writer Rich Murphy, I'm going to do a short video about properly stalking the other players in your fantasy league. This is fairly simple, really, and probably a trick that a lot of people know, but maybe there are some beginners, some first timers, some new people to the game, or some folks looking for an extra sneaky edge. And these are some of my tricks. The two big ones we're going to go through today. Logged into Fantasy Premier League transfers, or to the actual fantasy site. Obviously, here's status from last week, and we'll go directly to picking team. At which point, you guys will get to see the highly mythical, legendary Cloud Wrangler FC football team. That's me, Jeff Ryder. That's me, and this will show you guys. I'm giving a lot away here. My team picks for Team Week 7. This will show the guys in the league things that I've already done, which is not normally wise. But you see I've got my team picked out here. I've only got one injury to worry about this week. I got my lineup set fairly well. I've got my captain and pick, and that may change between now and then. But we're going to look at how to check the other guys in your team and make sure that the moves that you've made for the week are good moves or bad moves, and if you can afford to spend any points. So what we'll see here on this side are the various leagues that I'm playing in, a handful of folks. In my various rankings, it did fairly well. I'm confused how I managed to rise in every league but one, but that's another story. We'll use the Riders League for Fantasy Premier League transfers as our example. So here you'll see the list, once you click that, of the guys in your league. This is fairly common. People are used to looking at their league table. What Rich and I sort of joke about a lot of times is how I end up stalking everyone's team on game day. During the game, I end up looking at a lot of other people's stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up all of these teams at once. It's fairly simple. This is our first place player. This is me in second place. What I'm going to do is right click. I'm doing this on a Mac, but there's the window accessories. I'm going to sort of talk along as we go. You'll choose open link in new tab. Fairly simple. This will throw, bang, my team up here. Now what you'll see is my game week 6 points. If it ever loads, there we go. So I'll show you, had a fairly decent week, 71 points, well above the average. These are the guys that I had in various subs and injuries. I clearly picked the wrong captain, but you know, that sort of thing happens. I'm going to quickly go back here. Now, the best part of this is I can do this for everybody. I can open links in new tabs. If you choose that option, now I'll get the second part. Here is the inimitable Phil and his team. You get a quick look at those guys. I'm going to kill that for a second. By doing right click over and over, you can get that, or there's simply most people understand the shortcut keys to open a link in a new tab, so I'm going to click on it right here. And it'll pop them up one by one. So on any given Saturday morning, what I do is sit down, open this up, and then fire up everybody's game one by one. You'll see the new tabs appearing across the top here. Bang, 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 bang. These are all just right clicks. It'll take a moment to load. My internet is particularly slow today. And you'll get one by one everyone's team. Now, while game week is actually live, these will show live point scoring just like tracking your own team. I always go back to the first one and just normally click it instead of right click it. That keeps everybody ranked. So the very first team here is Berwick United, Michael Caffrey, Paul's father. Is outstanding player in the fantasy league and currently sitting in first place with a fairly good team. This will be me in second, Phil in third, and so on and so forth down the line. Now we get to the part of the game that's fun. Pre-opening of the scoring for the week, before game week 7 starts, this screen and everyone else will tell me some interesting stuff about the players that I'm playing against. For example, we're going to start with this team here. We see last week he played Brady, who is clearly injured. Reports currently say hernia expected back November 2nd. Obviously, that's a substitution he's going to need to make for his team. What we're curious about is if that's the only substitution that he'll make, will he most likely start the rest of these guys? You can see his bench has a lot of players who won't play much or didn't play at all last week, hardly. He has Whitaker. I also have Whitaker, only played 8 minutes as a late sub. Obviously, this is taking a risk with some of these cheap defenders who might not play. So he's very likely to need a sub. He could keep Wilson. He's not required to make a sub this week. But you never know. Now, the question is, has he done it? And this is where things get interesting. This will show me his score, obviously, from last week and his average and his high. This is his rank overall. And these are the transfers that he made last week. 0. What this tells me is that he's got a transfer in the bag this week that he can make, meaning the player ahead of me is able to make 2 full transfers without spending any money. I also know that so far this week, when I look on this small column here under transfers and finance, he's already played his wild card, so he can't make more than 2 for free. And so far this week, he hasn't made anything. It is right now, as you can see, 10:44 a.m. on October 4th. This is San Francisco time, so I'm 8 hours behind England. You guys are running out of time to make his moves. This leads me to believe it's possible he won't make any moves this week. He's going to let Wilson sub in for Brady, play this team, which looks fairly strong, and save up his transfer. Or he's going to spend just one, probably at the last minute. Late transfers are always highly important. We'll go to a second example of the same thing, and we'll look at myself. Last week, I made 3 transfers and spent minus points. This was because I got caught up in the whole Sergio Aguero last-minute injury, and I'd already made trades to cover Robin Van Persie, who was expected to be injured and wasn't, and it was a giant disaster for me, and I had to go in last minute and sub out of things. So I spent 8 points before I ever scored 71. Had I not done it, I'd have been hosed. I brought in Rooney and Negredo. I put together a total of 12 for the 8 that I spent. Better than nothing, but it is what it is. Last week's team is showing a pair of injuries. And if you check under transfers and finance for my name, you'll see I've already made 2 transfers this week. So the players ahead of me and behind me can expect that I'm going to spend another 4 points this time around. This will constantly show you the number of transfers this week compared to last week. Very valuable in determining if you can afford to risk a points hit based on whether the other folks on your team are taking a points hit. For example, the player behind me last week took the same points hit that I did, 3 points. This week, I can see he hasn't played anything. He can log in and see that I've already made 2 trades and know that if he wants to take a 4-point hit, it won't be as painful, or he can understand that he's already gained 4 points on me before the week's even started. Team number 4 on our list made 1 transfer last week, has made 2 transfers this week. So now player here in the middle understands that the player in front and behind have spent 4 points. He's likely to also be in the neighborhood of needing to spend points. He's carrying Michu, so he's going to need to make at least 1 sub. But he's got Ramsey on the bench. That's a solid substitute. He's got Cocker and Davies, which are pretty good backups for his players. He's likely to not have to sweat it. After spending points last week and knowing he can gain points this week, maybe he won't do it. Maybe he'll keep his transfer and then he'll have 1 in the bag. Those in-the-bag transfers are super valuable. At the same time, you'll see that in the last few weeks, he's got a lot of red arrows, and he's going to want to try to make up some ground. He also plays in many leagues, so it's likely that this is one of those players who's not checking every single league so he can see who played before him and who played behind him and who's spending points and who's not. Because frankly, how can anybody keep up with all of this? And that's my trick. It's a fairly simple trick. It's a trick everybody knows, but not a lot of people think to look. It's almost like reading the fine print. Again, we'll see here, 3 transfers but only 4 points. That means somebody had 1 to spare. And no transfers made this week. Also a wild card available. This is important to understand. It's also helpful to look at from time to time team values. Realizing that he's got $3.6 million in the bag means this Rooney injury can very easily become Robin Van Persie because he's got the money to spend. Whereas another player without a lot of money in the bag might not be able to make that transfer. At $101.4 million with only 0.2 in the bank, this Rooney transfer is very difficult to turn into a Robin Van Persie. He can't pick a player who's worth more than Rooney. It means he's also not likely to choose Sergio Aguero or any of a number of players who are worth more than Rooney's current value of 10.9, which is pretty high, but it means you can only go to 11-1. So that's some of my tricks for stalking your opponents. It's always fun to spend the day checking up on everyone's scores, clicking through one by one. I like to scroll them down actually while game time is happening so I can see all the totals. And then I rapid fire quick through and refresh a lot of times, and that'll show me how I'm doing in real time against everybody. Boom, 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 boom. Whoops, that kind of thing. That can make your Saturday game day fun. We'll get an actual recording of this happening in live time this weekend, and we will fire up how that looks for you guys possibly next week. In the meantime, hopefully these little stalking tricks will help you guys out. And if there are any other interesting sneaky tactics you want to know about, just let us know here at fantasypremierleaguetransfers.com. Thanks, guys, and good luck to everybody this